Hello and welcome back to the second part of oData operations. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to implement the create, edit, and delete buttons. And when we hit on create, we are going to display the form which is hidden at the moment. And after we write all the data inside the form and hit on save, it is going to create a new record for us, which will be added over here. So let's go ahead and implement the create button. So we are in the controller page and we have already written the methods. So at this step, when we create, we need to save the mode. So we create a key here which is mode and which is going to be 0. So the moment we hit on create, it is going to set the mode as create, right? And after we get into save function, we are going to validate if the mode is create, we are going to create. If the mode is edit, then we are going to edit the data, and if it is remove, we are going to remove the data. So once we are done with this, we are going to reset the form, this dot reset the form, so that if there are any entries, we are going to remove those entries. This is a new method, and we'll write reset form. It is a function. We will reset everything except the date field because we have already hard-coded that. So to reset the form, we'll access the IDs, hash name dot value. It is going to be null, and then we have description, which is going to be null, and then we have the price and make it null, and the date we are not touching. We have rating, and that is it. Next we have the ID, but we won't touch that. So but yeah, I think we can reset the ID as well. ID dot value, we are going to reset the ID, right? So we reset the form, and after that we are going to display the form with the animation. In the previous demo I showed you how to do that. So we access the form by the form ID, and we slide down, and we give a small time small timing of, let's say, 100 millisecond, and function 100 millisecond is very low. We are going to make it 300. So after the form is visible, then we are going to get the row count, because that will be the ID. So if you look into the records, you will figure out that PRODCTS products, and we found the format to be in JSON. So if you look into the ID, if you get the total count of this records, the new record will have the next ID, right? So we are going to count the records. Var ID is equal to SAPUI.UI.get core, and we need to access the table, so we know how many by ID. Our table is table ID, and here we are going to write get row count. So this is going to give me the total row count, and because the rows are starting from, the ID is starting from 0, and if we have a row count of 3, then the next ID is going to be 3, right? So this is going to be the new ID, and we are going to set this ID inside our form. So it is going to be ID dot value, and we are going to set that, right? Now if we go ahead and refresh this page and hit on create, It creates a new record and the ID is going to be 13. So there are already 12 records over here, and I told you there is a redundancy in the records. So there's a public service, so people are creating, deleting, and using this service. So the ID is going to be 13, and when we write the name and everything and we hit on save, uh, it is going to trigger this save function, and here we are going to create. So first we check if this dot mode is equal to create, then it will create a object for us which we are going to pass in the oData request. And also remember, if you're using the oData model, there is an object that gets created automatically, and you can access that object if you go to console, clear everything, and write oData and click on run. It is going to give you the object, and we are going to use this method to send the request to the server, and this method accepts an object. That's the object we are going to create over here, uh, and our URL in this case is going to be the same URL that we have used. So we copy the URL and paste it over here, and because we are creating a record, the method that we need should be post, and now we are going to create the request object, and the request object is going to contain the request URI, and it is going to be the URL. It is going to accept a method, and in this case it is going to be the method which is post, and then it is going to accept the headers. This is important. You can actually uh, save this part of script somewhere on a document so that you can use it again and again. This is going to be a column. But in this case, I'm just going to write those headers one by one. The first one is X requested with, and we are requesting with XML HTTP request. So XML HTTP request. The next header is going to be the content type, and the content type you can actually get it from here. If you get into the network and refresh this page, and click on the products URL, the products request, then the content type is going to be application JSON, and you can write the content type till here. So I'm going to copy that. That is going to be the content type. And the next thing is the data service version. So, and the data service version we are using is 3.0, and then we have a max data service version which is also 3.0, and it is going to accept the same thing, application JSON, and oData is equal to minimal metadata. I'm not sure what this means, but the content type is, this is what the content has. It is an object, so our data will go in form of JSON, and also we are accepting the response in JSON, right? Actually, we are going to place this request on top because it is going to be a common request for create and edit. So we have to remove this part, and we have to remove the method, and we are going to, if it is a create, then we are going to set the URI and the method. So we can access the request object, and after this we are going to request the URI, and it is going to be our URL. And next we are going to access this, and our method should be method, which is post. And in this case we also need the data. So what data did we use? So we can write our new data over here. We can declare it for new data is equal to, we are going to get this data from the form, and the first thing we need to know is what is the type of the data. So if you get into the metadata, then we see that this schema is oData demo, and uh, our type is going to be oData demo dot product, right? So we write oData dot type is going to be oData demo dot product, right? And now we need to get our new data from the form. So instead of writing everything here, we can get into the products page in JSON format, and this is all we need to pass except the discontinued date. So I copy everything. So our ID, first let's wrap everything inside quotes, and the ID in this case is coming from hash ID dot value, and similarly our name is coming from hash name dot value. So what exactly we are doing here, after we fill the form here, the name and everything, 1 2 3 1 2 3 4, we need to access these values. And the way to access those values, I showed it in the previous demo. You can write, to get the name field, you can write the ID. It needs hash dot value. It gives you 1 2 3. So we are placing the ID here, the name, and we need the description, and we also need the date over here. There's going to be date. We don't want the discontinued date, that's optional. And then we want the rating, and we want the price. So our data is created, and now we are going to pass this data to this request object. We are passing it this way because when we do the update part, we need the new data, but when we delete, we don't need this. So that's the way we are not writing this inside the request object. We are setting the object like this, request object dot data, and it is going to have the new data. So that's all about the create, and now we can go ahead and request the oData. So oData dot request, I showed you this function. So we are going to pass this request object to this, and we end it here. So after we are so after we are done with the request object, we need to get the callback so that we can hide the form. So to do that, we write function, and over here we are first going to update our model so that our table gets updated and refreshed, and then we are going to hide the form. So to do that, SAPUI dot get core by, sorry, we need the model, and this is going to be products dot refresh. And after this is done, we are going to form id dot slide up, right? So now let's go ahead and check this out. We are going to put the reset form as soon as we hit on create. So we are going to see this inside our Chrome browser. So now when we click on create, it automatically sets the ID for us. We are going to create Samsung 44-inch LED TV. The price is 1000. The rating is 4. And when we click on save, so our Samsung is over here. It got saved, and if you look into the oData service and go below, Samsung is right here. Okay, now we'll look into how to edit this record. So when we edit this record, uh, first thing we need to note if a record is selected, right? So let's go to edit, and this mode is equal to edit. So we need to get the instance of the table so that when we select on a particular row, it should give me the index of that. So var oTable is equal to sap.ui.getCore by ID. Our table has the ID, table ID, and we'll keep it till here. Is the selected index. So selected is equal to oTable.get selected index. Let's alert and see if you're getting the right index. So refresh this page, and select one of the row and click on edit, and that gives you 2, which means that we are selecting the second row and the index starts from 0, right? So if we have not selected a row, then the value of selected would be -1, and will alert the user to select a row, right? And if the user has selected the row, then we are going to display the form. So form id dot slide down, and we need to give the callback so that after the animation is finished, I want it to get the data from uh, that particular record. So we can do that by saying for data is equal to oTable dot get model products dot oData. Now if you're using a JSON model, then you can type get data and it will give you all the data, but here we are using our models, so we will get the data this way. And let's print the data and see what it gives. We are going to use Chrome, inspect element, and we are going to clear it. So click on one of the row, hit on edit, and it is giving us the data. So it is basically giving us all the data of this table, but we are interested only in this particular record, which is the selected index is 2. So in this case, we are interested in this particular record, right? So to get this record, out of all the records, we need to access this particular object. So let's do that. And this object is going to accept the index, the selected index. So we copy this and get into our controller, and we want to access this. But instead of hard coding the value, I'm going to concatenate that with our selected. Right now, if you refresh this page and click on one of the record and hit edit, it is going to give you the relevant object, the relevant data, and you can access these keys directly. That I'll show you how to do that. But once we have got the relevant record, now we will get the ID, and you can get the ID by writing data.id. Then we need the description, and you can write data.description. So we are actually accessing these keys, okay? And price is going to be data.price. And what else do we have? Rating is going to be data.rating, and ID, description, price, rating. We have name, data.name, and there is also date, but we are not changing, we have already hard coded. And now we are going to put all this inside the form, so that when I click on one of the form and when I click on edit, it should display the form, and it should also come up with this data, right? So we are going to access those elements. First we accept the name element, and we pass the value name, and then we access the description and we pass description, and then we are going to access the price and we are going to pass price. Then we are going to access rating and we're gonna pass rating, and then we're gonna access ID and we'll set it to ID. Right now, if you refresh this and click one of the record and hit edit, it is going to get the data. It didn't get price. That's because we didn't add a hash here. So look at the price, and then we make changes over here, whatever we want, and we save, and that particular record will get saved. So when we click on save, we are here. So as if this dot mode is equal to edit, then we are going to need this entire thing. Right here in this case, the URL is going to contain the index, and we can get the index. Basically we need the ID. What we have, this is the ID that we need, so we can get that ID easily by writing hash ID dot value. So this is going to give me the ID, and I'm going to concatenate this and pass my ID over here. And the method is going to be put, because when you update a record, uh, it's going to be put, but many services might not use put, they might go ahead with post. So you know, to check with that. And then our data is already new data and everything works the same. So now if we get into Chrome and refresh this page, and let's say we created this record, and from Samsung we'll make it to LG. So instead of Samsung, we have LG over here. We have LG, and when you hit save, uh, the data has changed to LG. And if you want to be sure about that, you can go to your service, and Samsung don't exist anymore. So that's the way you edit a record. Deleting is pretty straightforward. You can mark this mode the same way we mark the mode over here. This mode is delete, and after that we are going to call the save function. So it is going to trigger this, and if it has found this dot mode is equal to delete, then we are uh, going to simply delete that. But in this case we need all these things, and the method is going to be delete, right? And we need to set all those request URIs. So now our request object, which is this, we're going to set the URL, we're going to set the method, the headers are already there. When you delete, we don't need this. So that's the reason we had written it separately, and we use it for create and edit, but for the delete we don't need that. So let's save this, and let's try to delete this data, right? So when we select this, now in delete also we forgot that if we just click on delete, it should first check if we have selected a particular record or not, uh, which we have not done that. So when we remove, we need the index. So we write it over here, and after we get the selected index, we need to find out what is the ID, and we can find the ID like this, right? So we are getting the data we are interested in. We have to also check if it is selected. So basically it's very similar to the edit function. So we see if the row has been selected, and if it is selected, get me the ID of that particular row. And once we have the ID, we are going to set it inside. We just need to pass this ID to the save function, and we can write here remove ID. So at the moment it is 0, so we are going to set this ID. So now remove ID will have the index, what we are going to the ID basically. So now when we go ahead and delete this, our ID is going to be this dot remove ID, and everything looks fine over here. So let's go ahead and refresh this page one more time. Right, so if we do not select any record and just click on delete, it says select a row. Similarly with the edit, it says select a row. So we are going to select number 13 and click on delete. And everything is fine except delete, delete, right? Now if we go ahead and refresh this page, and if we just click on delete, it says select a row. So we selected the row and we hit on delete, and it deleted that record. And if you want to save, if we delete it from the server, you can refresh this link and there is nothing. So that's the way you do the CRUD operations with oData. I'm going to put it on GitHub so you can download the source. It will be in the below link down the description. If there are any doubts, please let me know. Put it in the comment. Thank you.